Hello, everyone. I'm here for one of my stories. This is Lindsay Dunn. And today I'm going to be talking about The Green Knight with Darryl Mansel. He is a colleague of mine in the North Carolina Film Critics Association, and he is the host of the Paprika Reviews podcast. And he's one of the merry band of men known as the Cinemen. So, welcome, Darryl, to one of my stories.
Thank you very much for having me. Can't wait to do a little bit of talking and get into some Green Knight shenanigans with you.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who knows you knows how much you've been, or knows you on the Twitterverse, knows how much you've been looking forward to the Green Knight. So before we get into the movie, I was just, thought it'd be fun to just remember how we met exactly. So what I remember is that we got connected through Joel Winstead and some horrible movie trivia game. So what was the name of that game anyway?
I was trying to think of that earlier and I couldn't remember it. I just remember thinking, this has potential to be good, but it's not good. But when you're, stuck in a pandemic, it's all you got sometimes to try to reach out and make new connections. And it was just a fun movie game, and that's how I realized that I'm not great at movie trivia. I didn't do great, but yeah, the app was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I think it was one of those deals where they give you the name of a movie and you say a star and then you name a movie and you try to keep the chain going and see who drops out and messes up first. But in the case of this particular game, I feel like a lot of times they kept giving us the same prompts over and over again. So
they did.
It timed out after a while and lost its interest, but
fun while it lasted.
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. And then, I got connected with you that way. So that, it's always good to at least have a networking opportunity and then have a new friend out of it. So so why don't you tell us a little bit about your channel in general? What are you all about? How do you separate yourself from other people? Like, is there a special way you choose the projects you work on, or what are you all about with your channel?
Paprika, it's a weird beast. It started out as one thing, which is now completely different from what it is now. It started out as a way to talk about pop culture in general, movies, as well as television, comics, video games, all that. And that lasted for about 7 years until December 31st of last year is when I closed those doors for good and hung it up and decided to stick with just reviewing film, which I was already kind of doing with each Paprika podcast that was coming out on a weekly basis. So now just reviewing movies in both audio and written form, because I kind of made my bones, as it were, in podcasting. So I wanted to keep that backbone and began writing as well. So writing and podcasting. So I want to give people an opportunity to, if you have the time, sit down and read the review, or if you're on the go or at work or in the car, whatever, you can just listen to said review. As far as projects that I choose, I kind of attempt to toe the line between, since I've been doing Paprika for so long, then I've got my tiny little following of people. I know what they like. And so I always try to seek out stuff that I know that they may have interest in, and I make sure I get those reviews out there. And I also try to step outside of my own comfort zone from time to time. I am not in any way, shape, or form a horror guy at all, but I'm slowly crawling out of my shell to check out a couple of movies that I normally wouldn't check out, just to increase my skill with writing reviews of different genres and all that good stuff. So started out as one thing, morphed into another. People followed me for whatever reason through this journey. Glad to have them, and glad to continue to pump out reviews for their liking for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you do all kinds of things. You do superhero, you do big blockbusters, you do independent. So it's not I don't get a sense that you have like a specific niche, but it is pretty, it's pretty broad. So I feel like you do toe that line pretty good. One of the things I noticed about your Twitter is you like to change your identity quite a bit, your name. So tell us about that. How did that kind of start, and how often would you say you change it?
Oh man, it started the moment I joined Twitter. If it's something that's silly or ridiculous or some kind of pun, something that makes me chuckle, then I'm gonna change it. It could be something that's topical or something that's in the zeitgeist for the moment. But yeah, sometimes it's inside jokes where like only one or two people know what I'm talking about, but I know it's gonna make them laugh. And that's pretty much the end goal. Someone is gonna see this and laugh and go about their day. And if I've managed to do that, then I think I've done a good job. And for now, I've been the greenest knight for so long, just waiting for this movie to come out. But I'm already thinking of what's coming next. I just haven't landed on a name yet. It's fun.
Yeah, I know there's been Sea Delicious, which I still don't know if I understand, but that's okay. And then I've definitely seen the paprika. I've seen, a lot of times I'll get a notification that such and such liked my tweet, and I'm like, oh, well, who's that? It's you.
Just me. Yeah, I like to try to have fun, and for me, I like to use my social media mostly to promote positivity and fun times. I like to have fun on my social media. It's enough doom and gloom out there. So if it's a little silliness to your day, then that's what I'm going for.
Okay, so yes, we are talking about The Green Knight, written and directed by David Lowery, starring Dev Patel, Joel Edgerton, Alicia Vikander, and a bunch of other co-stars, but those are the main three. And it's based on the Arthurian poem, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. For some reason, the characters in this movie are saying Garwin, which I'm not sure why they were doing that, but I did go on YouTube and a bunch of literature and confirmed it is Gawain. That is the accepted pronunciation.
Good.
But so the plot of this movie, not everybody's seen it yet. So I thought we could talk about that really quickly. It does diverge from the poem. It is done on Christmas Day, and there's this Christmas revelry happening. They are all, Arthur and his gang of men are all just having a good time, and it's interrupted by this Green Knight who has a challenge to drop. And the challenge is a blow for a blow. One person can give me a blow with this wonderful axe, and then a year from now, I get to return the blow, exactly the same one. And Gawain is the one who accepts the challenge, comes forward, and decides to chop the Green Knight's head off. We don't know why, but he is warned, but he still goes ahead. A year goes by, and the majority of the movie is taken up with his journey to the Green Chapel to accept this blow. And he's wanting to prove himself, but the journey becomes more difficult than he plans. So I think that's a good summary.
That's a great summary.
All right. So where I want to start is, we know this is one of the movies you've been talking about forever. What was it about the trailer or whatever that got your attention and made you feel like, hey, I'm so looking forward to this?
I remember back in mid to late 2019, people have been talking about the success of the cinematic universe within the MCU and how the other ones had tried and succeeded to various degrees. DC's hits and misses. Universal tried with their monster business, and that didn't work at all. People started saying, what would you like to see as a cinematic universe? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, what would be kind of dope is an Arthurian cinematic universe that leads us up to a Knights of the Round Table style culmination. Like that would be their Avengers, if you would. And like most things I tweet, people are like, "Shut up, get out of here." But that scene always stuck with me. Like, oh, that would be kind of dope to just to have a good series that's fantasy for the big screen. Obviously, Game of Thrones did great for the small screen for the most part. But that scene always stuck with me. And then I saw the first trailer for The Green Knight, and it's exactly the look and the tone that I had in my head for if someone did an Arthurian cinematic universe, this is exactly what I would want it to look like. So I feel like the universe is like, we're not going to give you what you want, but here's a little preview of what you could have had. And it immediately enthralled me from that very first trailer. Like I knew the trailer was dropping at X time. So I told my boss, hey, no word for me for the next 10 minutes. And I was ready for it. What I didn't know, I just knew there was going to be a movie with a knight of the round table. But then I saw that A24 logo come up because I didn't know they were doing it. And I was like, oh, well, that's all you had to tell me. I was in there. So from that first trailer, it sets the tone, the mood, and the atmosphere of that movie perfectly. And from there, that first trailer, I was hooked.
Mhm. Well, I think I remember that the original teaser, which wasn't a full trailer, was it just had Dev Patel on a throne and then his head goes up in flames. That's the original.
Crown comes down. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the image you had in your head of what you would be looking for.
Yes. Like this entire movie exists, I think, on its atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, trailer companies got to do what they got to do to sell you. They'll do whatever they have to put that butts in seats. If you look at that, the first Suicide Squad, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, that trailer that they gave us is not the movie that they gave us, but the trailer company did their job because they put the butt in the seat based off of that trailer. So sometimes they can not be as honest with you as they'd like to be, but this one, it sells you exactly what it is. That teaser and that trailer that we got earlier this year, it tells you exactly what the mood, what the tone, what the feel is going to be. And I was in for that ride. I was ready for it.
I did enjoy the teaser and how it was very vague. I think one of my pet peeves is definitely trailers that give away everything, and they just can't seem to help themselves. They feel like they need to do this 2-minute trailer, and it's just too much. You just need to generate enough interest. And like you said, try to do it honestly. This is something that actually represents what you're going to see. We know it's going to be a little avant-garde, a little offbeat, because the fact that it just looked it looked very dark. Just, it looked like a dark rendering of it. And we got that right away. So
yeah, I think from the teaser they dropped and from the trailer they dropped, both accomplished different things. The teaser just said, this is the mood of this weird movie, whereas that trailer story, and this is the journey that we're going to go on. So I combine those two in my head, and I'm like, okay, now I know a little bit of the story and the plot, and I know what tone they're going for. Done.
But they left enough out that you still had questions.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you're like, what's the deal with the yeah, exactly. Like, what's the deal with the fox? Like you're wanting to see more. How did that actually plays out? And you honestly don't know from the trailer, which is unusual. Right. So I think that is a good point to make. So what were you expecting from the movie? We sort of touched on this already, but did the reality live up to your expectations? Did it play out the way you kind of expected it to?
Yeah. One thing that I said in my review, how I started my review of this movie, is expectations are a double-edged sword. A person can spend, however long before the movie hyping it up in their head, hyping it up. And if it doesn't meet those expectations, they leave disappointed without fully realizing that part of that is a little bit their fault, that they might have overhyped it in their own head. And then every once in a while, you hype it up, and it lives up to the hype, and it makes it that much sweeter. And for me, that's what this is. Like, it was Endgame. We knew Endgame was going to be great. We all hyped it up, and then we got in there, and it was great. And it was a wonderful, goulash of emotions all throughout that movie. The same with The Green Knight for me. Like, I had supremely hyped it up in my head, like this might be the movie of the year, right? And then leaving out, I was like, this might be the movie of the year. It hit all the things that I wanted. It looks great. It's just weird enough that I was like, what? Maybe I need to see this again, and I would find another reason to see it again. There's just enough for me in this movie to not get full, complete closure. There's enough open-endedness where I can, kind of theorize and piece things together. As far as expectation goes, it hit and exceeded mine.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think for me, it didn't meet my expectations. That doesn't mean that I didn't like it, but even though I knew it was going to be a slightly offbeat and weird and dark, I still thought it was going to be a heroic story. And so it defied my expectations in a big way. And when my first viewing, I was just it was not confusing, but it kind of definitely impacted the way I viewed the movie, just because I didn't know what to make of it. I was just, my head was spinning. I was like, what just happened? Because nothing good happened.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that nothing good happened. I would say that there is some good at the very end that has the potential to happen. Like, there is a seed of good happens in this movie. But yes, it is grim and dour and bleak, which are some of the stories that I'm drawn to. I mentioned Game of Thrones earlier. I'm a huge fan of the book series, and that's kind of the tone of that book series. Things are very bleak and hopeless. For some reason, that's the ones I'm like, yeah, the worse the better for me. But that's this I think that there's threads of good that could potentially happen. And that's kind of one of the things that afterwards you can kind of sit and theorize, well, how do things progress from here? And that seed of hope is planted, I think.
Yeah, I did appreciate there was some hope or opportunity, but I just mean in general, you see the flaws of Gowan, and you're just, what are you doing? Like, what? This is a bad decision. You've just made a really bad decision. But and we'll get into this more, but it kind of goes to that idea of what are we trying to say about the world, with this version. But it jarred me that it was as grim as it was. It was a grim portrait of humans and what they do and how you can react to things in a way that shows dignity, or you can react to things in a way that is the total opposite. And it's just hard for us to see our hero that way, I think, because for me, I like Dev Patel a lot, and obviously he did a great job in the role, but you're rooting for him because he's our main character. And so as he goes along and he makes mistake after mistake, you're kind of disappointed, and your heart is hurting a little bit, and you're disappointed in the person. That's just me. I'm like, no, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted you to be a hero, and that wasn't it. And doesn't mean that the movie was not good, but it definitely defied what I expected to come out of it.
Yeah, it kind of plays with that whole hero's journey trope. I think we have the conflict, we have the call. Usually, the refusal to call comes after that, but eventually they take it up. And what if we take that and we kind of play with it and mess with it a little bit and give a different perspective on our titular hero here, and how do we play that out? And I enjoyed it for the subversion of that hero's journey trope.
Yeah, that's a good, it definitely subverts that trope. Okay, so you've seen the movie several times now. I've only seen it twice, but how many viewings are you up to now?
I'm on 3, and I will be watching it when A24 streams it next week
Yeah.
as well.
So how have additional viewings changed your perception of the movie?
That's kind of a hard question
Or
to
have they?
answer. Yeah, it has a little bit. Like, I came out of it the first time, like, oh, this is amazing. And I came out of it the
Mhm.
third time, like, oh, this is still amazing.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things, character motivations, one character in particular, without getting too spoilery, that I'm still not convinced on, and how much this character plays into overall things. And that's kind of been the reason for my subsequent watching, is this character in particular. I want to know how much they actively take part or influence things. And that's kind of what I've been studying with each rewatch. And I'm still no closer to an answer. And I'm now closer to just being fine with not having that answer. But still holds up, still beautiful. The other questions that I had coming out the first time have mostly been answered for me on this third viewing. And now this fourth viewing is just, again, pure enjoyment coming up. But yeah, there's one character in particular that still kind of scratches at me that I can't quite nail down.
Well, I think you should say what character it is.
King Arthur.
King Arthur.
King Arthur is the one that I'm not 100% certain on how he factors into the whole thing. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think there is a feeling, just to speak to what maybe you're thinking of, is, but there's definitely this sense of feeling that you're wondering how, I think a couple characters, how involved they are in, it's like, did they summon the Green Knight, or did the Green Knight come on his own? There's definitely a couple scenes that lead you to believe that there are people that sort of have a plan of something they want to happen, and perhaps Gawain did or did not do as they expected or wanted him to do, but they were setting him up. Were they setting him up for success or failure, or were they just giving him an opportunity and letting him do as he will? There was a lot of that uncertainty maybe at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the negativity I've seen from other critics about this movie is that element, is the uncertainty of not being sure, is this happening, is this not happening, is this just in someone's head or an imagining. There are some people that do feel like they need to know exactly what's really going on. And how was that experience for you? Is that a negative for you, or is that something you enjoy because of the way it opens up different meanings?
Yeah, I'm okay with both types of stories. I'm okay with the story that tells a complete story and has closure at the end. You walk out of the theater understanding the message they were trying to tell you, or the themes they were trying to convey, or whatever the case may be. Those are all well and good. I also enjoy things that are a little bit open-ended and that you can dig further into and that you can theorize. Part of that is the fun of movies, is getting together with people saying, I think it's this, well, I think it's this, and then you can present your evidence throughout the movie. This is why I think it's this, and well, this is why I think it's this. And that's what makes film fun, because it's all open to interpretation, unless they are blatantly hitting you over the head with it. Not the case here. I am very okay with not understanding everything. And one of the things that I mentioned in my review is bringing your own beliefs into the film and using your own beliefs to kind of flesh out answers that you don't quite have, or more understand this world and how you interpret things just based on your own life experiences. So yeah, the uncertainty I love. Like Lost is my favorite show of all time, and that was just a whole bunch of questions with no answers by the end of it. But
Mhm.
that's kind of those cerebral things are what I gravitate to more often than not.
I enjoy an atmospheric movie. So the
Hmm.
fact that there was this, cloudy, foggy day and elements of fantasy in it that
Mm.
maybe you weren't expecting, that is something that I enjoy because I like a good mood. And this picture was definitely moody, wasn't it?
100% mood. And I the people, wanting to have that explanation or closure. I can understand that. Like for some people, you've had a long, hard day at work. You just want to zone out and watch a film without having to put in those mental gymnastics because you just spent 8, 10, 12 hours doing that at the office or whatever the case
Mhm.
may be. So if you're looking for that kind of movie where you can just kind of sit back, chill, and enjoy it, and you don't get that, then it can be a little bit abrasive. But that's the more the merrier for me. Not like David Lynch style of open-ended or just unexplained weirdness. That's a little bit too far for me. I do have a line, but in this case, man, it was right in the sweet spot for me.
We've talked about atmosphere, but are there
Mhm.
other strengths you want to call out for this movie? Like, what do you think are the best things about it?
Yeah, I mean, other than just that mood or tone, obviously the cinematography is no one, no matter what you think about the movie, like it, love it, hate it, indifferent, no one can deny the gorgeousness of that movie. And me as a huge cinematography freak, like that's when it comes to film, like that's my thing. Just give me a beautiful looking movie and I'm already half in the bag there. And this one, in addition to all the other good stuff it does, it is beautiful to see. It is a feast, a sumptuous feast for the eyes. I think that is its strongest suit. And even for people who are just like, I don't know what's going on in this movie, and if they can mentally check out all they want and still just soak up those beautiful images all they want. And I think that is its strongest suit as well as the score, and which I think you want to talk about a little bit further on down the road. But I think the score does a lot of heavy lifting in this movie as well.
What about that? The acting, obviously, you think that the acting is pretty good. Did you think that was a strength in the movie, or
Yeah,
did it
like
just?
I enjoyed the acting. Like Dev Patel he already cemented his status as a leading man. Like we'd had uh, Copperfield the year before that, which is a delightful movie, which I loved. And I'm like, okay, he's got the charm, he's got the looks, he's got the chops. Obviously, he can do good leading man roles. So the acting was fine. Alicia Vikander, despite the movie she's in, which oh boy, she needs a better agent because her resume does not belie her talents. I think she's never bad in a film, and Joel Edgerton is just Joel Edgerton and everything. Give me more Joel Edgerton, and I'm happy for it. The acting is good; it is very solid, but I still think it takes a back seat just to, like I said, that mood that Lowery sets all throughout, and that mood is also supplemented by Hart's score.
Mhm.
So I see. When I read my review after I finished, you know, getting it all laid down on paper, and I was like, I didn't really talk a whole lot about the acting because I was just so focused on what stood out the most to me that I had to go back in there and revise it all. And for me, the acting just kind of took a back seat to just the overall story and mood and setting.
Yeah, I do think, not to disagree with you. I do think the mood and the music and just even the story, the strength of the story, and you're taking this journey with them. Those were definitely the highlights. But sometimes in movies like this, because there is such a strong atmosphere, it isn't always apparent how good someone's acting is. And with Alicia Vikander playing basically two roles and having to have a completely different affect, that's quite something. I feel like that people need to be aware of. And Dev Patel, what I thought was interesting about his performance is he's been in Slumdog Millionaire. We've seen him in that. I have yet to see David Copperfield. I know he was also in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, numbers 1 and 2. He's in a lot of what we've seen him in up till this point are a lot of very comic roles, or even in Slumdog Millionaire, which isn't a comedy, he's still he has this very innocent, childlike spirit about him. He's always got this kind of enthusiastic dog and expression, almost just a friendly person. He's always amicable and affable and just all the positive things you can think of. You don't think of him as someone that would be in this brooding, bleak movie. So I do think it's an interesting contrast, a new direction for him to take that I'm glad about, unless there are other roles I'm forgetting about where he played something darker. Please bring them up if I'm not thinking of them.
I know Lion, that's his
Lion.
Supporting actor nominated. I haven't seen Lion. The trailers look very serious, but I don't know his role in it. But like I said, we got Copperfield last year, and that is a complete 180 in tone and in acting style, because he's very upbeat, very warm, very inviting, very charming, whereas he is not that in this movie. And that duality also, like you said, Alicia Vikander playing 2 different roles, whereas one of those roles is very barefaced and open about what they want. I want to be your lady, whereas the other one is a little bit temptress, seductress, a little bit secretive, and yet
coy and manipulative. Let's just say
you got to play that 2 different ways, right? And she does a great job with that as well. Joel Edgerton, speaking of which, is just the weirdest interjection into all of this. And we talked about a lot of bleak and dourness, and he gets to Joel Edgerton's part of the movie, and he's just like, hey, come chill, you're cool to relax here. And he's just this weird little bit of not upbeatness, but he's not really cheerful, but he's just a cool, chill dude. And after all the stuff that he's been through to get here, it's weird to see that in the movie as a guy that's just like, I'll help you out. I'll give you directions. I'll tell you what, you can stay here. I'll go hunt. I'll give you whatever I bring back. And you're just like, okay, I like this guy's vibes. But it's very, it kind of adds to the creepiness of it, because we've had all this bleak dourness, and he's just like, hey, I'm just here to help, which immediately puts you at ease, or put me at ease.
Well, see, now I did not, that is not the interpretation I had. Maybe because of the bleakness of the movie, I did not trust his character. And it's interesting because I've seen a lot of people say similar things to you. Like they said, oh, he's this nice guy. And it's like, really, does he not see what's going on? I mean, he's one of the people that I felt was sort of setting up Gowan for failure. And that's my cynical attitude coming out. But because of the movie, and we've seen each person in succession, they all have an angle. They all have something they want from him. They want him to do something or live up to some expectation they have. Even Arthur and his mom, his mother, everybody has something they want him to do. So I automatically was with Joel Edgerton, which I think his official name in the movie might just be the Lord.
Yeah.
What is your angle? And what do you, because he seemed to know at the end, didn't he? He gave vibes that he knew that maybe that Gowan wasn't being completely honest. So it was, I didn't get the same vibe that you did, Darryl.
And I think that's really the beauty of it, is you can kind of see it played either way. And it can be interpreted in multiple ways, which I think that's what a good movie should do, is have a layered enough performance in the story, in the writing, and in the directing, and in the acting as well. So where you could be like, this or this or this or this, and both sides can be completely viable.
Yeah. It kind of makes me feel bad now that I was like, well, why didn't I?
Well, I mean, coming
You're like,
off of
you're
all
at
the
ease.
craziness.
You're at ease. I'm just like, that's the Lord. He's evil.
I might have got ensnared in whatever trap he had planned because my defenses would have been down.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And you're looking for light. You're looking for that edge of light. You're like, this guy is chill. He's gonna give me food and drink, and
you got to rest up for you don't know what that confrontation with the Green Knight is going to be, man. So you got to take any port in the storm, right? So
yeah,
and that's kind of, I mean, literally it's a storm when he gets to the Lord and the Lady's place. So if any opportunity that I can let my defenses down a little bit, because at that point, after all he's been through, he's tired, he's stressed out, he's hungry, he's wound up. That gave him opportunity to just kind of pump the brakes for a little bit and reset his brain, or at least that's what he thought was going to happen before going to that last leg of the journey.
Right. But was that what he needed? Because that was what I had thought about, is that I was thinking about fairy tales, kind of going back to because I was also thinking about fairy tale tropes when I was doing this, is that at each leg of the journey, you have an opportunity to make a good choice or a bad choice. And it could have been that, because the Lord was just like, come and stay. It's not that far. I promise, if you stay here, you don't have to travel that far. So that sort of made Gawain feel like, oh, I can relax, like you were saying. And that gave him an opportunity in this case to let his guard down. And he ended up showing even more weakness while he's there. So it's interesting. And I feel like in both times I've been in the movie, somebody next to me, when he said, oh, it's not that far, you can stay and relax, people were like, they were just like, nope, don't do it, keep going.
I know myself, and I know that I immediately would have fallen for that. I'd have been like, okay, I got a chance to chill out here, I'm going to take this chance to chill out here. And I might have fell for the I might have fell for the trap. I could have made it through all the other ones, but that last test could have got me.
Let's go ahead and talk about the music. I'd like to very much to hear what you think it did for the movie.
Nothing but helped the movie. Obviously, where we get themes of religion are throughout this, and do you have faith, or testing your faith and all that. And I think that is helped quite a bit by the score. There's a couple of tracks in there where you can't help but think about religion as you hear something like choirs singing. It sounds like it's echoing off of cathedrals already. So it just puts you in that mindset and keeping it in the back of your head of, don't forget, while he's on this journey, also, this is a test of faith as well, especially in the third act of that movie. And you come back to, I keep coming back to that mood and that vibe. It's the look and it's the sound from the score. Those are the two things that really set the mood for the entire movie. And I think Hart understood the assignment. He knew it well, and he just creates those creepy and evocative feels, those ethereal sounds that he puts into a score that just really takes a good film and elevates it to a great film.
Yeah, it uses sort of this chamber choir. It's not a huge choir. It's more like 3 or 4 voices. It's a very small ensemble. A lot of it's a cappella, and it's not. It's using a lot of minor chords. So where the tones are clashing with one another. And that definitely sets you up for, this is unsettling. It's not a happy
dissonance. It's slightly creepy. Like music is made for films. It kind of tells you this is what you should be feeling now. A lot of the times, whereas I don't think that's 100% what this score is doing. There are times where that dissonance is saying, hey, you should not be trusting this, or you should be a little bit creeped out. And then other times, like I said, it's just feel this world. The music helps flesh out the world to me, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that's one that I've normally, at the end of the year when we have our Critics Awards and whatnot, one of the categories is score. And in the past, when I've done these, that's one of the last things I pay attention to. Like before I got to turn my business in a week or two beforehand, that's when I'll just go through a slew of scores and start listening to figure out, all right, this is better than this. All right, this I'll put this, nominate this. This one it's been on repeat since the movie first came out. And I just cannot stop listening to it. It's one that I'm like, this is the one to beat. This is the score to beat this year for me. And it shows that everyone is on the same page in this movie, with the score, the director, sound design, production design. They're all working congruent with each other to create this atmosphere.
Yeah, it was definitely a unity of purpose between all of them.
Yeah.
I think another thing I noticed was that, especially in the first scene, you had this raindrops coming down, and at the same time there was just this kind of, it was a string instrument of some kind, but they're just kind of brushing it very violently. And so they were not just using music to, like you said, create an atmosphere or tell people how they're feeling. They're using it to emphasize maybe something's happening on the screen at the same time and help you feel it in a different way with your senses than just you're seeing it. You're also hearing it, and that can make it a lot more jarring and more emphasis on that.
Right. It just makes things more real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot that can be pulled out of what does it all mean? So at the moment, do you have a current take on that about what do you get out of this movie?
Man, that's a rough question. What it's overall, The Green Knight is the testing of pushing a person to become a better version of themselves. I think that is what the overall theme of the movie could be described as, is we will beset a quest upon you. And I truly believe that this is a setup and designed to push him to become a better version of himself. We know he starts out as a man with no faith at the very beginning. I mean, if you're asking a person why they're going to church on Christmas Day, then obviously you don't have a whole lot of faith happening. But by the end of the film, things have changed. He's grown, he's developed. He's become a different person than he was at the beginning of the movie, depending on how you want to interpret that last, 17, 20 minutes of the movie. But I think overall, the main thing to take away from the movie is that you can become a better person, given the right environment and circumstances. These are not the circumstances that I would like to be tested in. But that's what I get out of it the most, is there's always the capacity for betterment within a person.
A lot of that comes with trial and error and pain, and not succeeding.
Yeah.
Where I am kind of with it right now, this came on my second viewing, and we talked about already the Arthurian heroism and the vision of that we have from classic literature, and what is a hero and what does a hero do, and also with the fairy tales. I was thinking about how in fairy tales you have a lot of times the oldest ones, there's sort of this dunce character. You might have three brothers, and the first one is very boastful and is considered the smartest one or the best or the one that's going to succeed, and he maybe does something cruel. And then the second person, who's a little less skilled but not quite as good as the first one, makes a mistake. And then there's the third brother who's kind of a bumbling idiot, but because of the goodness of his heart and just the fact that he has this inner character, he is able to succeed where the other two aren't, the ones that are skilled and the smartest. And in the case of Gawain, you have almost the opposite of that. Gawain is approaching this wanting to be this hero, but he doesn't want to do any of the work.
Right.
We see that he's at the beginning, he's in a house of prostitution, probably. We don't know exactly where he is, but he is out there. He's not trying to be a knight. He's just hanging out. And during the year, he could have been preparing training. Instead, he's in the house of alcohol, getting drunk with his friends. And he goes home and there's the king, and the king's been waiting for him to talk to him, and he's feeling a little bit embarrassed about it. But once he starts in this thing, instead of reacting how we would expect a knight to act, he almost does the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. He meets a beggar. He's not generous to the beggar. And he's also not very cautious. He sort of plays into things. Then we have this interaction with Winifred, or I can't remember if that's her name, but again, he's asked like, he asks like, what will you do for me? He's not there to give, he's there to get. And so as he goes along each step of the journey, he kind of acts in a way that I feel like the status quo that we have now. Like, I was thinking about how when you meet somebody who comes up to you on the street and says, hey, would you give me a couple bucks? Most of us go, no way, man, I don't have any money. And if you do, you're gonna give him a couple bucks when you actually have, in the case of Gawain, he had more, and the guy knew he did, but he wasn't showing honor. He wasn't showing chivalry. He was just kind of going with the flow, but he wanted the glory. He was trying to take perhaps a shortcut.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So for me, again, it goes back to that bleak, David Lowery is almost saying, is saying, where is chivalry? Is chivalry dead? That's a question people even ask. They're usually thinking about a guy holding the door, but it's a lot more than that. The Code of the Knights, it was all about honor and what does that look like. And again, we don't want to spoil anything, but instead of doing the grand gesture, sometimes to get to that place, you have to do just something simple, like being honest. And right. That might be the hardest thing to do, but from there you can grow, because somebody could at least see that you're a person of integrity and feel like you have a chance, rather than trying to be the most important, to be the head of the table or the best knight or the bravest or the strongest. Sometimes to get there, it takes little steps. It's not a grand gesture. So that's kind of my current take right now.
I fully agree on all that. I think he wanted to be something that he didn't fully understand. Mm-hmm. And like you said in your rundown of the movie, like, don't know why he chops this guy's head off. I think he definitely chops this guy's head off because all those knights are in the room, so he can make a display for himself, like, this will show him I'm one of them, or this will get me in good with the gang. He wanted to have all the spotlight on him and tales told of how he slew this big supernatural creature. I think most people, which I've seen this plenty on social media, of if a guy's saying, hey, blow for blow, just scratch him on the arm so you can get a scratch on and go about your day. That's the easy way out. But no, he wants that spotlight, and he wants to be able to show off, basically, in front of the king, in front of the queen, in front of the Knights of the Round Table. That's why he does it. I think it is 100% just dumb pride on his part. That's why he does it.
Yeah, he didn't think about the consequences of the long term of what he was doing. He's just thinking, oh, we don't know what he was thinking, but it's like, if I do this, then I don't have to take any blow. I'll just have chop the guy's head off.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's a man who fully has no intention on honoring his end of the bargain, which is not very chivalrous. But, you got to start your character somewhere, right? So that's where they started.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to call out that we didn't discuss? And I'd also love to hear your final score out of 5, but we can probably deduce what it might be.
Final score out of 5 is 19 out of 5. That's what I'm giving this movie. I would say that this is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. One of the best montages, I think, in a film. A 17-minute, almost wordless montage that plays into the finale of the movie. There's some movies that live and die. Rocky's always got a great montage you can look forward to, but this one just had more impact and emphasis on the character. Usually your montage is used to kind of move the story along quickly. This one kind of gives you insight into what could be, and I enjoyed for that. Also, man, props for Ralph Ineson as the Green Knight. Like, that guy's voice is amazing. The character design is amazing. The sound design, just the creaking as he moves, and the booming sounds as he steps are all wonderful. He's not on screen long or often, but when he is, he commands that presence, I think. So yeah, final thoughts. I think this is a movie that not everyone will love, obviously. Unfortunately, I think some people, going back to expectations, hyped it up as, I think when people see knights and swords, they think Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones had a lot of action in it. And I think a lot of people were expecting action like that in The Green Knight, and that's not what this movie is, unfortunately for them. Mm-hmm. So, it's not for everybody. If you're a fan of that ethereal, cerebral type film, then I think this is 100% up most people's alleys.
Yeah.
Another feather in the cap of A24, who rarely misses.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. I think I end up giving it 4.5 out of 5. Who knows? Maybe I could raise it. Right now, I think the only movie I've given 5 stars to this year is 9 Days, but The Green Knight is right up there. I don't give 4.5 very often either, to be honest.
Well, so you shouldn't.
I think that maybe for me, like I said, I would like to have been able to hear what everybody is saying, and I couldn't do that. And so that did lower my score a little bit, but I did enjoy it. I also liked the montage. I thought it was such a perfect example of showing a narrative without dialogue and what is possible. And in those moments when people are communicating everything with their eyes that they're not saying with their mouths, and the music was perfectly chosen for that moment too. So it was definitely, and then there was this note of hope, sort of towards the end with all the bleakness. So it was enough that you didn't go feeling like, everything's awful and now I need to decompress at home because I'm so depressed. Like, I didn't come out of it. It was enough that you sort of went, okay, there's hope after all. Not all is not lost. Yeah, I think that's a nice feeling.
I think it's a great feeling, and I think a lot of movies who have protagonists like that will get them down in the dumps, and then we'll see that arc coming up or whatever. But in this instance, we just get a hint of that arc coming up, and I think it's again that subversion of the hero's journey that I loved. I think I gave it a 4.5 or a 5. I think I gave it a 5. I think it's my only 5 of the year so far. Yeah, 5 should not be given out lightly, but in my opinion, that this is a 5 movie. There might be 2 5 movies this year. That's one of them. I'm still waiting to see if that other one ever gets released.
And this is something you brought up, but if you haven't seen it yet, it is still playing in theaters. It is also playing on A24 on August 18th. Tickets are $20. You can watch it on the web, on the A24 Apple TV app, or the Roku TV app. And I know, Darryl, you have your tickets already that you're planning on doing.
Yes, I do. That is I get off work right as it starts, and I'm moving from one system to the other system, and I'm queued up and ready to go with my popcorn and beer. Can't wait.
Okay, well, I'm sure after this discussion, there's going to be a lot of people that want to be able to find you. So let people know how they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Seedalicious, SEEDALICIOUS. You can find the website Paprika Reviews, POPRIKA Reviews, like paprika with an O instead of an A. And if you are a fan of all things pop culture, Paprika does have a Facebook group as well, facebook.com/groups/Paprika Podcast. Just ask for an invite in there, and we'll invite you on in. A very lively, active group. And our Green Knight discussion thread was a very lively and active discussion thread. So come on in. We try to keep things nice and respectful for everybody. We try to make sure everyone is well represented and well heard. So you can find me on all those places.
Okay, great. And in all episodes of the Cinemen, of course.
Yeah. I mean, within
I guess
Paprika,
is that is also put on Paprika. Okay.
It most definitely is. Me and young Douglas Davidson over there try to get out to a month for you, just talking about all things film in every kind of different way we can think of. We try to have fun with it and also bring a little bit of analysis for you.
Okay, I will have all of that in the show notes for our viewers so that you don't have to remember any of it off the top of your head. If you couldn't keep up with Darryl's spelling, you will be able to see it all, links in the YouTube video when it goes live. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this discussion, and we'll see you next time on One of My Stories. Bye.